The extra challenge, though, as Professor Fox also noted, is that in this concept of time, not everything that should happen actually happens. Just because it may be the time for loving, for example, doesn't mean that that actually happens. And then it's also not just talking about the things that do happen. It's saying there are times when it is appropriate or right for these things to happen, even if they don't happen. It's hard to hold on to. There's vapor here. We would love a reading of this poem that says, now it's time for this, so let's do that. That might be more appealing to us. I know it is for me, because oftentimes I just want to know what to do in a given situation. Instead, Kohelet points us to the absurdity of it all, the fleeting nature of life. These things happen. These things happen. Sometimes they're supposed to happen. Sometimes they aren't supposed to happen. Sometimes when they do happen, they aren't supposed to happen. And sometimes when they are supposed to happen, they don't. It's absurd. It's Hevel. What does tie these things together is that most of them are out of our control. Some of them happen that we would prefer not to happen. Maybe those things that we might call more destructive. Tearing down, dying, losing, crying. Things that don't happen that we would like to happen. Maybe those things we might call more constructive. Birth and healing, peace and embracing, laughing and dancing. And then the times change. We have very little control over and know so little about those times and their changings. I certainly have less control over these things than I would like. I don't know how to engineer life so that the times I enjoy last longer and the times I would rather not go through are brief or non-existent. In verse 11, Kohelet explains, God has made everything fitting in its time, but has also placed eternity in our human hearts, without enabling them to discover what God has done from beginning to end. Do you catch this? This absurdity. God determines what time or season is appropriate. But also, God has put in us eternity, a desire to understand and seek understanding, the ability to search for and find and make meaning, but also, God hasn't given us the ability to understand the times or what God has done. It's absurd. It's Hevel. What can we hold on to in this? One theologian summarized this conundrum in this way: human beings are caught between self-transcendence and stifling ignorance. We are caught between self-transcendence and stifling ignorance. And it is both. If we're honest with ourselves, we hold both possibilities within us. It is those two contradictions held together. We are both made in the image of God, a little lower than the angels, capable of great feats and goodness. And we are nothing but dust, as this chapter reminds us. All are from the dust. All return to the dust. What we are told here is we can know, and we cannot know. It's not one or the other. It is both. And I think the bothness of it, the need for us to hold them together, to hold them in tension, the lack of an easy conclusion is what we find so challenging, what can feel so challenging.